Can you tell us your name?
I am Dillon Diaz.
Dillon Diaz. What is your experience with polyamory?
Well, that's interesting because I feel like my experience with polyamory is pretty new. It's pretty recent. Um, when I started working in adult entertainment, I was exposed to, sexuality in many different forms, and it kind of opened my mind to the things that I enjoy, the people that I enjoy, um, and then it also seeped into relationships and how I view relationships and experiencing freedom within a relationship. I learned that sex was just sex. And, if my partner wants to have sex with someone else, that doesn't mean that our relationship is over. They can just go have sex with someone else and then come back to me. And then I have the freedom to go out and do the same and still live happily ever after.
Do you,
So it's just kind of opened everything up for me.
do you have a title that you would put on your relationship, like polyamorous or non-monogamous or
I don't use titles very much anymore. I kind of just do what feels right. The titles for me just kind of felt like they didn't really describe me anymore. And I didn't want to feel like I was locked into this one thing that I said that I was. I just want to leave things more open and free.
did you find that things started going smoother when you didn't label them anymore?
Yes. Yes. So much smoother. When things weren't labeled, when there weren't expectations, when there wasn't a sense of ownership or you know, jealousy, everything changed.
Have you read any polyamorous materials before?
No, this will be my first time and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. I am very excited to get this in your hands. Would it have
Yes.
been helpful to you to have materials and language to describe something other than a vanilla relationship?
Possibly, but I also think that it's the timing. Like I'm at the place in my life where I can receive that information and really absorb it. At another time, I would have been like, "Oh, that's great for someone else," but that's not going to work for me. Now I can see it, how it applies to other people and to myself.
Was there something marked in your memory that about what was going on during the switch? What made you able to receive the information this time around?
It was just that opening of my mind, feeling like there were no boundaries, no limits, and it wasn't bad if I wanted to be with more than one person at a time. Um, how it didn't really impact my other relationships. Whatever was going on with this one didn't impact what was going on with that. Like everyone could just be happy and not like so stressed out all the time.
I love that. Thank you. Is there any relationship? Oh, is there any non-monogamous relationship advice you'd like to give to people watching?
Oh, non-monogamous. Well, at first I should learn how to pronounce the word. Monogamous relationship advice. It's gonna sound corny, but just go with the flow. Just relax, have fun, enjoy. Forget what you learned from other people in the past and just make it up as you go.
Is there a key to non-monogamous relationships?
I think this key is pretty much the key for everything. It's communication and honesty. You know, those are the two. Those are the hallmarks. You need them for everything.
Hello, can you tell us your name?
Hey, I am Cherie DeVille.
Cherie, what is your experience with open relationships?
Well, I started experimenting with open relationships, swinging, multiple partner relationships probably about 15, 18 years ago. And for me, it actually came from a place of getting to know myself. Because for me, even though, you might be in a monogamous relationship, I'm not sure how everyone else feels, but for me, I would intermittently have crushes on people. And I would feel a lot of guilt and I would feel a lot of shame about that. And I would, usually avoid that person. But with kind of further internal discovery about how I felt about myself and how I felt about my various partners, I realized that a lot of the feelings I was having wasn't from my own experiences, but was from what society was putting on me. This is the path you should follow. You should be in a relationship of two people. You should be completely monogamous, emotionally and sexually, and deviating from that is bad. So when I realized that, one, I have feelings often outside of my relationships, and that's okay. And to really give myself emotional permission to not feel shame from that. And then, for me at least, when it comes to my partners being with multiple people, a lot of my hesitancy with that in the beginning, I think, came from insecurity. If I'm being just brutally honest, a lot of the reasons that it was hard for me to share my partners sexually because I was insecure. I felt that if they were to experience sexual intimacy or emotional intimacy with another human being, that would take away from what we were experiencing together. And so it took a long time for me to really kind of self-reflect on, why am I in monogamous relationships? Is this what I want, or is this what society wants? And then why do I feel these feelings when I imagine my partner being with other people? Is it because I actually don't want that? Or am I getting in my own way by kind of pinning them down in a blanket of my own insecurities? And for me, that was the truth. For me, I was really listening to societal norms and kind of abusing my partners with my own insecurities. And it took a lot of years for me to kind of get out of my own fucking way, and live the life that the real me, without all of these external factors, wanted to live.
What was helpful in finding the real you and breaking down society's expectations?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how most people feel about this, but I was a really, really jealous person. And for me, I think it was a lot based on control. I think that even when I started swinging or started porn, and you'll hear this a lot in the adult industry, oh, we do everything but, this one sex act or that one sex act. And I kind of thought to myself, okay, well, why? Is that something you want to be special in your relationship? Or is that something, you don't like to do? But I think for myself and for a lot of other people, it's just sort of a form of control. Let's see what this person will do for me. And that's a really ugly place to be in a relationship, whether it's sexual, whether it's emotional, whether it's anything else. So I feel like, to answer that, it was just my way of bettering myself. I don't want to be a cruel person. I don't want to be a controlling person. I don't want to be, there's all these qualities that I want to have as a human, and I'm not going to use the excuse of what society feels is normal to lay that on other people. So a lot of therapy, a lot of reading, a lot of self-reflection, I feel like are the reasons that I slowly kind of moved away from what society considers a normal relationship into what I now consider the most comfortable and truthful way for me to live.
Were there any certain reading materials that helped you understand yourself better so you could give your partner more freedom?
I mean, recently, I've read a lot of things. Recently, that might not have to do with polyamory, but recently I read a really good book about nonviolent communication. And, I've never, that doesn't mean you're physically abusing your partner, but I feel like there's a lot of things that we do and that we say and that we ask for that don't really have anything to do with the people that we're with. And so for me, it was a matter of reflecting on, well, why am I doing this? Why am I asking this? And to get to the root of a lot of those feelings, it was almost never that they were doing something that wasn't without, like, that was on the outside of the bonds of trust in our relationship. It was almost always that I was having some sort of internal problem. And I feel like through, being openly talking to friends about stuff like this, even friends that are monogamous, reading, doing all of that, it just helped me kind of sift through my own shit.
Do you have advice for people that are going newly non-monogamous?
I think if you're in a relationship and you're already, bonded with a person or more than one person, and you're thinking about expanding that, I think trust, communication, no matter what kind of relationship you have, if you're asexual, if you have one partner, if you have 12 partners, if you don't have really honest, open communication, I can't imagine any type of relationship really succeeding, even if it's just a friend relationship. I think that honesty, openness, and communication are what build the foundation of any trust in any relationship. But the only question that I'd ask is not so much myself, but society is, when people choose a lifestyle that is not the one that you've chosen, I wonder if people could maybe self-reflect, because anyone who's polyamorous or a swinger or lives any kind of non-traditional lifestyle, especially when that has to do with sex, gets a lot of flack from friends and family and society. And I just would love to ask that the people making comments perhaps look into themselves and wonder why my life is so triggering to them. And I think that you might discover something about yourself, because I can't imagine anybody's choices, especially a non-violent choice, bothering me unless I had something that I was trying to work through. So yeah, that might be my ask for people before they try and control somebody else's life, especially someone's that they don't know. Yeah.
Will you please introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Sam Solo.
Hello, Sam Solo. Can you tell me what your relationship with non-monogamy is?
My relationship with non-monogamy is almost as old as my relationship with relationships. I recall being pre-college age or just around college age, and there was a group that I was a part of, and the group, I'm not going to go into their name, but they were debating whether they should try to become like, should we take on polyamory as like an issue? Like we were really pro gay rights, and now should we be like is polyamory like part of our portfolio of activism now? And I remember that conversation, like, I think I haven't even had a real girlfriend when I was like listening to like the sort of older people in that organization have that conversation. So my relationship to it is that I've been a practitioner pretty much my whole dating life.
In non-monogamous relationships, what are some of the difficulties that you've encountered?
I mean, a lot of it is the same difficulties that you experience in any other kind of relationship, whether it is breach of trust, lack of communication. But obviously the big thing that everyone always thinks of is jealousy, but people get jealous of their interactions that their partners have when, even if they are nominally not having a sexual encounter with them, even if I know that you're not sleeping with her, or I know you're not sleeping with him, but I still don't like the way you talk to them. I don't like the way you smile at them. So it's just another level of like, I wish that you had gone on more dates with me this week instead of them, as opposed to like, why do you laugh at every one of his jokes? It's the same stuff, basically.
What advice would you give to somebody that is considering a non-monogamous relationship?
The biggest thing is make sure that you know that you can handle it emotionally, or make sure that you're educated enough about the reactions that you might have. Because a lot of people in their brain, they're like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm not possessive. Why don't we see some other people? But then when it happens, they really, really react poorly to that first encounter with someone else, or the first time they see their partner with someone else. So the biggest advice I can give is just make sure that you know what you're getting into and be prepared for those first waves of ugly feelings and then work through them. Don't give up as soon as it gets slightly uncomfortable.
Would you give me a few words on non-monogamy versus polyamory?
I'm going to give you just my feeling is that the difference between non-monogamy and polyamory is that polyamory is a little bit more intentionally about setting up like almost more of a family structure or long-term relationships where you feel like deep emotional connections and you have real relationships with multiple partners at the same time. Whereas non-monogamy is much broader. It can be everything from a birthday once a year pass to people whose jobs involve sex to inviting people into your relationship where you have sex with them maybe as a group or separately, but it's the same person. So non-monogamy just to me is much broader. Polyamory a little bit more specific and a little bit more of an emotional connotation to the kinds of encounters you're having outside of the primary relationship, if you even use that model.
With so many relationship dynamics available to you, how do you pick which one's right?
Definitely depends on the other person. If the other person has been non-monogamous or polyamorous, have a lot of experience with those things themselves, then you can probably find something that's a little bit freer and a little bit wider ranging in the possibilities. And if it's somebody that you has not had no experience, you're experimenting with someone together for the first time, both of you, you have to start off a little bit more limited and go slower.
Many people tie non-monogamy to penetration during sex. How does non-monogamy work in a non-penetrative relationship?
Well, I think that's just goes into a larger issue about like very out of date in my eyes concepts of what sex is and what sex means, what having sex looks like. So for some people, they go so far as to believe that they're still virgins when they have anal penetrative sex. So, I mean, for me, that's something that's almost hard to speak to because I like I said, I've always had sort of a wider definition of sex and types of sexual encounters that you can have. So if you're starting non-monogamy and you think that the ultimate sexual expression is like a penis and a hole, then you might want to like expand your sex education before you expand your like relationship possibilities.
Will you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Siouxsie Q.
Siouxsie Q, what is your experience with non-monogamy?
My experience with non-monogamy is vast. I have pretty much always been interested in non-monogamous relationships. I like as soon as I started having relationships as like a young person, teenager, I knew that that was the way for me. I'm queer and bisexual. I've always been attracted to lots of different genders. So it never like made sense logically for me to be like, oh, eventually I will settle on one person, even though I'm attracted to all different types of people. I'm going to keep meeting people, but certainly I'll find just one that I like, right? No. So yeah, it's been around for a minute. I've been in one monogamous relationship that I really did not enjoy. And so that was in early college. And since then I've been very on the up and up about being committed to a lifestyle that supports open relationships and non-monogamy.
Where did you learn about non-monogamy?
Oh, I learned about non-monogamy. I mean, from my heart, first of all, like I had this desire to that, like, okay, I don't think that I want to be with just one person for the rest of my life. I don't think that's a realistic path for me. But when I started learning about what ethical non-monogamy could look like, what a polyamorous lifestyle and open relationship could look like, that was in like mid-college when I was in that serious monogamous relationship that I spoke of previously, and really unhappy, wanting something different. And I had this fabulous like guidance counselor in my college. Her name was Kat McGraw. Shout out to Kat McGraw, who was like the LGBTQ liaison or of some sort at my college. And she recommended the book, The Ethical Slut, to me. And she was non-monogamous. She was in a polyamorous relationship. And I just remember being in her office crying about my girlfriend who was mad at me all the time for existing. And Kat McGraw being like, I promise, buddy, one day you're going to have the relationship that you want. And one day you'll be surrounded by a community of people who support that type of relationship and who have that type of relationship too. I promise. Like, and she spoke from experience. She said, I have a non-monogamous relationship now. Most of my friends are polyamorous or open in some way. And I was just like, you're lying. That can't be true. But it was, and it is. And fast forward to, 10, 15 years, that is my life. Kat McGraw was correct. So I'm glad I made it.
Do you have any advice for newly non-monogamous people?
My advice for newly non-monogamous people. Ooh, I would say that the best advice is to honor that your primary relationship is with yourself. That controlling and taking care of your needs first and foremost, and adopting the strategy of really trying to do no harm and regulate your nervous system. Just know that love and sex, the chemicals that those release in your brain and in your body, it's drugs, man. It's straight up drugs. And so just honor when you are experiencing jealousy or new relationship energy, when you have a crush, just acknowledge that your body's kind of on some drugs that it created. That's what those feelings are. So keeping that in mind as you make decisions and trying to take care of yourself, take care of your community, and honor your needs first before you start telling other people what to do. That's what I would say.
You've mentioned community a few times. How do you find non-monogamous communities safely?
How do you find non-monogamous communities safely? It's a great question because the stigma against alternative relationships is really big. And depending on where in the world you live and what kind of community you are already in, it can be really challenging to come out and therefore find other people. So, thank goodness we have the internet. And there are people, even if they don't live in your physical community, that you can create community with long distance via the World Wide Web. So finding those folks who share your values, who share your goals in terms of what lifestyle you want to live. It starts with coming out, but coming out isn't always safe because of the stigma associated with these types of relationships. So finding the people that it is okay to come out to, coming out to them, and going from there is kind of the only way to go.
How would you approach the subject of non-monogamy if you had a partner that was timid about it?
Well, if I had a partner who was timid about non-monogamy, I would approach the subject as soon as humanly possible, because I know going into any relationship, that's my point of view. That's the type of relationship I'm going to want. So if I were to not broach that subject and we were 2-3 weeks, months in, that could, feelings are already there. If that person is timid to the point of not wanting to be involved, feelings are going to get hurt. That could go south real quick. So I try to just, approach it early, be honest, and also be okay with someone's no. It's not everybody's cup of tea to live a non-monogamous lifestyle or have an open relationship. So if you meet somebody who's not interested in doing that, then you're probably not a good match, and that's okay. You can be friends.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Since I'm here trying to think of questions off the top of my head.
You're doing a great job. I think that monogamy and the nuclear family is really a tool of capitalism and white supremacy. I'm sorry to be that guy, but straight up, like, it doesn't, in the world that we live in, having two people raising a family is something that only wealthy folks can really do. And so the more that we can be a community of people who love each other in a lot of different models and come together to share resources and fight for liberation, like, this is a strategy to do that, in my experience and in my opinion. So fight the patriarchy, down with monogamy. I said it. I'm sorry. It's okay if you're monogamous, though. That's all.
Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Michael Vegas.
Michael, please tell us your experience with open relationships and polyamory.
My relationship with non-monogamy or polyamory or open relationships is that I haven't always been that way. It took me 2 failed monogamous marriages to realize that non-monogamy is what I needed. I was trying to force myself into this box because that's what I was told I was supposed to do. I was told that's how I was able to honor my partner, which is what I really wanted to do in a relationship. I am a committed person and I am there to the end to like make something succeed. But when one person is trying to do one thing and that works for them, and another person is trying to do another thing and that's what they need, those 2 relationship dynamics just aren't going to go together ever. And that's okay. I have found that there are people all across the world, all across friend groups, all across everywhere, that are non-monogamous, but are forcing themselves into relationships because they are told that that's how it's supposed to be.
What do you find preferential about non-monogamy and open relationships?
What I find preferential about non-monogamy is that it really allows me to be myself. I am a very flirtatious person and I love filling up other people with love. I love giving wholly and not having to restrain myself when I'm interacting with them. I love being able to truly look at them and tell them that I love them. And it may not be a romantic love, but it is a serious thing that I mean on the same level that I would mean it with my romantic partner, or close to that level, or at least on some level of genuine love and connection. And when I'm in monogamous relationships, every single one of them, I experienced a jealousy or an envy about the dynamic that I would have with like even strangers. You know, if I met a stranger and we had a spark or a connection, I would be nice and I would be flirtatious, but then I would also get from my monogamous partner, why were you talking to them like that? Why did you look at them? Why were you so close? Why this, why that? It's like, I'm just trying to feel good and make them feel good. And then we will leave this interaction. I'll never think of that person again. Why did you put so much thought into it? It wasn't that kind of thing. And like nothing about what we did with that, like that interaction I had with another person other than my partner will ever take away from what I have with my partner. And so that it just feels fear-based. If you're afraid that I'm going to find something better than you, if you're afraid I'm going to leave you, you don't trust my words when I'm telling you that I am committed to you and that no matter what, you are the one for me. And I feel like eventually I just got to the point where it's like monogamy was breaking me. I didn't want to cause hurt by being a flirtatious person, but that also caused me to have to cut off a portion of myself, which finally, after my second failed marriage, I realized that I have to come first. I have to take care of myself and I have to be okay. Otherwise, I'm not showing up okay to the relationship. It's already broken before I got there because I'm not honoring myself. So it is so important. And I tell people all the time, like, really, really, really think about if it's what you need or not, or what you want to try, and understand that you may be with a committed long-term partner that isn't okay with non-monogamy, but you also may not be okay with monogamy. And like, sometimes relationships have to end so you can grow as a person.
Now that you are practicing non-monogamy in open relationships, how do you handle jealousy?
Navigating jealousy in a non-monogamous relationship can be tricky, but also so simple. In monogamous relationships, there's a lot of not saying what you mean. There's a lot of backhanded games that are played with passive aggressive communications because people are truly afraid to say what they want, think, or mean, because communication has not been paramount in their relationships. In a non-monogamous relationship, handling jealousy and handling those things is done through communication. That's it. You have to use your words to assure people and remind them and tell them of your intentions and actions. And you have to use your actions to back up your words, or it will be a failure, because you need to make people believe what you were going to say, so that when you set up the rules of your non-monogamous relationship, whatever they are, that person can feel that there is a commitment to the relationship dynamic that you have set forward.